The sun had just begun to rise over the glistening waters of Lake Serene, casting a golden hue across the tranquil surface. It was the perfect morning for my first fishing tournament, and I felt a mixture of excitement and nerves bubbling inside me. I had always enjoyed fishing as a relaxing pastime, but this was my first serious competition. With my fishing rod in hand, I walked down to the lakeshore, finding a spot that seemed promising. The air was crisp, and the gentle sound of water lapping against the shore was calming. I took a deep breath, feeling ready to tackle the challenge ahead. As I cast my line into the water, my heart raced with anticipation. Minutes passed, then an hour, but there was no sign of a catch. Determined not to give up, I adjusted my stance and cast again, this time with a bit more force. To my horror, my grip slipped and my rod flew out of my hands, plunging into the lake. "Great," I muttered under my breath, staring helplessly at the ripples where my rod had disappeared. Panic set in. This was a disaster. I was going to be the laughingstock of the tournament. Just as I was about to give up hope, I heard a voice behind me. "Need some help?" I turned to see a man in his late 30s, with a weathered face and kind eyes. He wore a wide-brimmed hat and carried a fishing rod with the ease of someone who had done this 1,000 times. "Yes, actually," I replied, embarrassed. "My rod just took a swim." He chuckled softly. "Don't worry, it happens to the best of us. I'm Jack, by the way." "Annie," I said, shaking his outstretched hand. "Nice to meet you, Jack." Jack nodded and walked to the edge of the water. With a swift motion, he cast his line and expertly snagged my rod, pulling it back to shore. He handed it to me with a grin. "There you go, good as new." "Thank you so much," I said, relief washing over me. "I'm still pretty new to this." The next morning, the sun rose just as bright, promising another beautiful day at Lake Serene. I arrived at the lakeshore earlier. As luck would have it, Jack was already there, setting up his gear. "Morning, Annie," he greeted with a friendly smile. "Ready for another day of fishing?" "Absolutely," I replied, feeling a newfound sense of determination. "I'm ready to learn." Jack nodded approvingly. "Great attitude. Let's get started." He began by reviewing the basics with me, showing me how to properly hold the rod and cast the line. His patience was unwavering, and he explained everything clearly, making sure I understood each step. Jack's expertise was evident, and his passion for fishing was contagious. "Remember, it's all in the wrist," Jack said, demonstrating a smooth, controlled cast. "You want to make sure your line lands softly on the water." I mimicked his movements, trying to replicate the fluidity of his cast. My first few attempts were clumsy, but Jack encouraged me to keep trying. With each cast, I felt myself improving, and my confidence growing. After a while, Jack handed me a different lure. "This one might attract some of the bigger fish. Give it a try." I attached the lure and cast my line, watching as it landed perfectly on the water's surface. Jack gave me a nod of approval. "Now patience is key. Keep a steady hand and wait for the fish to bite." Minutes passed, and I felt a slight tug on the line. My heart skipped a beat as I focused intently, remembering Jack's advice. I waited for another tug, then gently pulled back, feeling a stronger resistance. "You've got something!" Jack exclaimed, his excitement mirroring my own. I carefully reeled in the line, feeling the weight of the fish fighting against me. Jack stood by my side, offering guidance and encouragement. "Keep the tension steady, don't rush it." After what felt like an eternity, I finally saw the fish break the surface of the water. It wasn't huge, but it was my first real catch. I couldn't help but smile as I lifted it from the water, feeling a surge of accomplishment. "You did it, Annie!" Jack cheered, clapping me on the back. "Your first fish!" I looked at the fish in my hands, a mixture of awe and pride filling me. "I couldn't have done it without your help, Jack. Thank you." Jack shrugged modestly. "You did all the work. I just showed you the way. You've got a natural talent for this." As I released the fish back into the lake, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The thrill of the catch, the joy of learning something new. It was all more rewarding than I had imagined. Jack's guidance had been invaluable, and I was grateful for his mentorship. For the rest of the morning, we continued fishing, each catch building my confidence and skill. Jack's presence made the experience enjoyable and educational, and I found myself looking forward to our next session together. By the time we packed up our gear, I felt a sense of camaraderie with Jack. He had become more than just a mentor. He was a friend. As we walked back to the shore, he gave me a nod of approval. "Keep at it, and you'll be a pro in no time." "Thanks, Jack," I said, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I'm enjoying this. Can't wait for the next lesson." "Neither can I," he replied with a smile. "See you bright and early tomorrow." As I drove home, I couldn't stop thinking about the day's success. The lake had become a place of learning and growth, and with Jack's guidance, I was discovering a new passion. Little did I know, this journey was just beginning, and there were many more lessons and surprises waiting for me on the horizon. As the days turned into weeks, my mornings at Lake Serene became a cherished routine. Jack and I met regularly, our fishing rods in hand in the stillness of the lake, setting the stage for our growing friendship. Each session was a blend of learning, laughter, and deepening connection. Jack's expertise continued to impress me, and under his patient guidance my skills improved steadily. He taught me to read the subtle signs of the water, to understand the behavior of different fish, and to refine my technique. The satisfaction of each catch was magnified by the camaraderie we shared. One particularly clear morning, as we cast our lines into the shimmering water, Jack broke the comfortable silence with a question. "So, Annie, what made you decide to enter a fishing tournament?" I smiled, remembering the mix of excitement and nerves that had brought me here. I've always loved the outdoors, but I wanted to challenge myself, to do something different. The tournament seemed like the perfect opportunity. Jack nodded thoughtfully. "I get that. Sometimes, stepping out of our comfort zone leads to the most rewarding experiences." We continued fishing, the rhythmic sound of the water lapping against the boat creating a soothing backdrop. As the sun climbed higher, our conversation deepened. "What about you, Jack? How did you get into fishing?" I asked, genuinely curious. He leaned back, a nostalgic look in his eyes. "My grandfather taught me when I was a kid. He had this old cabin by a lake, and we'd spend summers fishing together. He always said fishing wasn't just about the catch. It was about patience, understanding nature, and finding peace in the process." "That sounds wonderful," I said, picturing the serene scenes he described. "Do you still go to that cabin?" "Not as often as I'd like," Jack admitted. "Life gets busy, but I try to make time when possible. It's a place that holds a lot of memories for me." We fell into a comfortable silence again, the tranquility of the lake enveloping us. I felt a connection to Jack that went beyond our shared hobby. He was someone who understood the deeper meanings in life, someone who appreciated the simple joys. As the days passed, our conversations ranged from lighthearted banter to profound reflections. We talked about our families, our childhoods, and our dreams for the future. Jack revealed his passion for environmental conservation and his desire to protect the natural beauty of places like Lake Serene. In turn, I shared my aspirations, hopes for a fulfilling career, and love for nature. I found myself opening up to Jack in a way I hadn't with anyone else in a long time. His presence was comforting, and his genuine interest in my thoughts and feelings made me feel valued. One afternoon, as we sat on the dock watching the sunset, Jack turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "You know, Annie, I never expected to meet someone like you at a fishing tournament." I laughed softly. "Neither did I, but I'm glad I did. You've taught me so much, not just about fishing, but about life." Jack smiled warmly. "The feeling is mutual. You've brought a new energy into my routine. It's been refreshing." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the lake, I realized how much Jack had come to mean to me. Our time together had become a highlight of my days, and I looked forward to each session with a mix of anticipation and gratitude. Fishing with Jack was more than just a hobby. It was a journey of discovery, of learning about each other and ourselves. The lake had become a place of connection, and with each passing day, our bond grew stronger. Little did I know, the depth of our relationship would soon reach new levels, leading us to places neither of us had anticipated. The gentle lapping of the water against the boat and the soft rustling of the leaves created a serene backdrop as Jack and I spent another morning fishing together. The tranquility of Lake Serene mirrored the calm I felt whenever I was with him. Over the weeks, our conversations had become more intimate, our laughter more frequent, and our silences more comfortable. It wasn't just about the fishing anymore. It was about the time we spent together. Every glance, every smile, and every shared moment seemed to carry a deeper meaning. The mutual attraction between us was undeniable, and it hung in the air like a subtle but persistent fragrance. One afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows over the lake, Jack and I found ourselves sitting side by side on the dock, our legs dangling over the edge. We had spent the day fishing, but our focus had shifted to simply enjoying each other's company. Jack turned to me, his eyes reflecting the golden hues of the setting sun. "Annie, do you ever feel like some things are just meant to be?" I looked at him, my heart skipping a beat at the sincerity in his voice. "Yeah, I do. Sometimes it feels like everything happens for a reason." He nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "Meeting you at the tournament, getting to know you, it all feels like it was meant to happen." I felt a warmth spread through me at his words. "I feel the same way, Jack. These past few weeks have been incredible. I never expected to find something like this." He reached out and gently took my hand, his touch sending a pleasant shiver down my spine. "I'm glad we found each other, Annie. You've brought something special into my life." I squeezed his hand, feeling the connection between us grow stronger with each passing moment. "You've done the same for me, Jack. I've never felt this way before." As the evening wore on, we stayed there on the dock, talking about everything and nothing. The stars began to twinkle above us, and the night air grew cooler, but the warmth between us kept us close. At one point, Jack turned to me with a serious expression. "Annie, I want you to know that I care about you a lot. I'm not just saying this because we've been spending so much time together. I genuinely feel something for you." I felt my heart swell with emotion. "I care about you too, Jack. More than I ever thought I would. Being with you feels right." He smiled, his eyes softening. "I'm glad to hear that. I've been wanting to tell you for a while now, but I didn't want to rush things." I shook my head. "You're not rushing anything. I'm glad you told me." At that moment, everything felt perfect. The lake, the stars, the quiet intimacy between us. It all seemed to align, creating a sense of magic. We stayed there for a long time, just enjoying the closeness and the growing attraction between us. As we finally decided to call it a night, Jack walked me to my car. Before I got in, he leaned in and gently kissed me, his lips warm and soft against mine. It was a kiss filled with promise and the beginning of something beautiful. "Good night, Annie," he whispered as he pulled away. "Good night, Jack," I replied, my heart full of happiness. Driving home, I couldn't stop smiling. The mutual attraction between us had blossomed into something real, something undeniable. And as I thought about the days ahead, I couldn't wait to see where this journey with Jack would take us. The days leading up to the tournament were filled with a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. Jack and I spent countless hours at Lake Serene, honing our skills and perfecting our strategies. The memory of our first conflict lingered, but it also strengthened our bond. We had learned to communicate better and trust each other's instincts. Early one morning, as the mist still hung low over the water, Jack and I sat on the dock, our fishing gear spread out before us. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft golden glow across the lake. "Okay, let's go over our plan one more time," Jack said, his eyes serious but warm. "We need to be clear on our strategy if we're going to do well in the tournament." I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "Agreed. So, we start at the deeper parts of the lake in the morning, when the bigger fish are more active. Then, as the sun rises and the water warms up, we move to the shallows." Jack smiled, nodding in approval. "Exactly. And we need to be mindful of the weather conditions. If it gets too hot, the fish will retreat to cooler, shaded areas." We discussed the types of bait and lures we would use, considering the habits of the fish and the feedback we had gathered from our practice sessions. Jack's experience was invaluable, and I appreciated how he respected my input and insights. "Remember, it's not just about catching the biggest fish," Jack reminded me. "Consistency is key. We need to catch a good number of fish to stay competitive." I grinned, feeling a spark of excitement. "I've got it, and I'll make sure not to drop my rod in the water this time." Jack chuckled, his laughter a comforting sound. "That was quite the start, wasn't it? But look how far you've come, Annie. You're a natural." His words filled me with pride and confidence. "Thanks, Jack. I couldn't have done it without you." As we continued to prepare, we shared stories and tips, and our camaraderie grew stronger with each passing day. Jack showed me how to tie different knots, and I taught him a few tricks I had picked up from my research. It was a true partnership, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude for having him by my side. One afternoon, as we practiced casting our lines, Jack turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Annie, do you remember the first time we met? How everything seemed to fall into place?" I nodded, smiling at the memory. "I do. It's funny how a dropped rod led to all of this." He chuckled, shaking his head. "Life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? I'm glad it happened, though. Fishing with you has become one of the highlights of my days." I felt a warmth spread through me at his words. "Me too, Jack. I can't imagine doing this without you." As the tournament drew closer, our preparations intensified. We practiced different techniques, refined our strategies, and even studied the competition. Jack's experience gave us an edge, but it was our teamwork that truly made the difference. The night before the tournament, we sat by the campfire, the flickering flames casting shadows on our faces. The air was filled with the scent of pine and the distant sounds of the forest. "Tomorrow's the big day," Jack said, his voice filled with anticipation. "Are you ready?" I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. "I am. We've worked hard for this, and no matter what happens, I'm proud of us." He smiled, reaching out to squeeze my hand. "Me too, Annie. Let's give it our best shot and have some fun out there." As we sat there, the stars beginning to twinkle above us, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The journey to this point had been filled with challenges and triumphs, and I was grateful for every moment. With Jack by my side, I knew we could face anything that came our way. Tomorrow, we will put our skills and our partnership to the test, and no matter the outcome, we would do it together. The morning of the tournament dawned bright and clear, the sky a perfect, cloudless blue. Jack and I arrived at Lake Serene early, the cool morning air buzzing with excitement and anticipation. The lake was already bustling with activity as competitors set up their gear and prepared for the day ahead. "Ready, Annie?" Jack asked, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I nodded, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. "Ready as I'll ever be." We found our spot and began setting up, our movements synchronized from weeks of practice. As I cast my first line into the water, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. Today was the culmination of all our hard work, and I was determined to make the most of it. The tournament was intense, with fishermen and women vying for the best spots and the biggest catches. Jack and I worked seamlessly as a team, communicating with nods and quick words, our rhythm honed to perfection. He would point out promising areas, and I would cast my line with precision, confident in the techniques he had taught me. "Keep an eye on your line, Annie," Jack advised, his voice steady and reassuring. "The fish are active today." I nodded, focusing on the subtle movements of my line in the water. The hours passed in a blur of concentration and excitement, the thrill of each catch fueling my determination. Jack was a constant presence by my side, his encouragement and guidance pushing me to do my best. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, I felt a strong tug on my line. My heart raced as I began to reel in, the resistance telling me this was a big one. "Steady, Annie," Jack said, his voice calm but excited. "You've got this." With Jack's coaching, I managed to reel in the fish, its shimmering scales catching the sunlight as I pulled it from the water. It was the biggest catch of the day so far, and a cheer went up from the nearby spectators. "Great job, Annie," Jack exclaimed, clapping me on the back. "That's a beauty." I grinned, my heart swelling with pride and gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Jack." The rest of the day continued similarly, with Jack and I working together, our synergy undeniable. As the tournament drew to a close, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. We had given it our all, and no matter the outcome, I was proud of what we had achieved. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. The judges tallied the scores, and the competitors gathered around the podium for the announcement of the winners. My heart pounded in my chest as the names were called out. In third place, with an impressive array of catches, is Annie Smith. A wave of disbelief and joy washed over me as I stepped forward to accept my prize. The applause and cheers from the crowd filled my ears, but all I could focus on was Jack's beaming face, his pride and happiness mirroring my own. "Congratulations, Annie," he said, pulling me into a hug. "You earned this." "Thank you, Jack," I replied, my voice choked with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you." As we stood there, the sun setting over Lake Serene, I realized just how much this experience had changed me. I had come here a novice, unsure of myself and my abilities. But with Jack's guidance and support, I had grown into a confident, capable angler. The tournament had been more than just a competition. It had been a journey of self-discovery and partnership. And as I looked at Jack, I knew that this was only the beginning. Together, we could achieve anything. That night, as we celebrated our success, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The future was bright, and with Jack by my side, I was ready for whatever came next. The excitement of the tournament slowly gave way to a peaceful evening. Jack and I sat by the lakeshore, the remnants of our celebratory picnic spread out on the blanket between us. The sun had set, leaving the sky painted in hues of deep blue and purple, with stars beginning to twinkle above us. "Today was amazing," I said, leaning back on my hands and gazing up at the night sky. "I still can't believe I placed third." Jack chuckled softly, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "I knew you had it in you, Annie. You've come so far." I turned to look at him, my heart swelling with gratitude and something deeper, something I had been hesitant to acknowledge until now. The flickering light of our small campfire danced across his face, highlighting the kindness and strength I had come to rely on. "Jack," I began, my voice barely above a whisper, "there's something I need to tell you." He turned to me, his expression curious but encouraging. "What is it, Annie?" Taking a deep breath, I gathered my courage. "These past weeks have been incredible. I've learned so much from you, and not just about fishing. You've shown me what it means to believe in myself and to push beyond my limits. And, well, somewhere along the way, I realized that I've developed feelings for you. Strong feelings." Jack's eyes softened, and he reached out to take my hand in his. "Annie, I've felt the same way. From the moment we met, there was something special between us. Watching you grow and succeed has been one of the greatest joys of my life, and I realize that my feelings for you go far beyond friendship." His words filled me with warmth and a sense of rightness. I was so scared to say anything, afraid it might ruin what we have. But now, hearing you say this, I'm so relieved. Jack squeezed my hand gently, his eyes shining with sincerity. "I'm glad you told me, Annie. I've been wanting to say something for a while now, but I didn't want to pressure you or complicate things before the tournament." A smile spread across my face as I leaned closer to him. I guess we were both holding back, afraid of the same thing. He chuckled softly, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. "Seems that way, but now that it's out in the open, I want you to know that I'm here for you, in whatever way you need." I felt a surge of happiness and contentment as I looked into his eyes. "I want to be here for you too, Jack. I want us to be together." He smiled, his gaze tender and full of promise. "Then let's do this, Annie. Let's see where this journey takes us." At that moment, everything felt right. The uncertainty and hesitation melted away, leaving only the warmth of our mutual affection and the excitement of what lay ahead. We sat there for a while longer, talking about our hopes and dreams, our hands intertwined. As the night grew cooler, we finally stood up, packing away the remains of our picnic. Hand in hand, we walked back to the campsite, our hearts light and our spirits high. The future was uncertain, but with Jack by my side, I felt ready to face whatever came our way. And so, under the blanket of stars, we took the first steps toward a new chapter in our lives. Together. The days following our confession felt like a dream. Jack and I were closer than ever, our budding relationship filled with warmth and affection. We spent our days fishing, exploring the lake, and talking about our future. Everything seemed perfect, until one evening when the clouds rolled in. It started with a disagreement over a simple thing: the fishing gear. Jack had always been meticulous about his equipment, and I had grown accustomed to his methods. But that evening, as we prepared for our fishing trip, I made a mistake. I accidentally tangled a line in the reels, and Jack's frustration was evident. "Annie, you have to be more careful." Jack's voice was sharper than usual. "This gear is expensive, and it takes time to get everything untangled." I felt a knot form in my stomach. I had tried my best to follow his instructions, but clearly it wasn't good enough. "I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to mess things up. I'm still learning." His expression softened a little, but the tension lingered. "I know you're learning, but we've been working together for a while now. I thought you'd have picked up more by now." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. I understand that it's frustrating, but I'm doing my best. I didn't expect everything to be perfect right away. The silence that followed was heavy. We managed to finish untangling the gear and set up for the trip, but the mood was strained. The joy we usually shared was overshadowed by the unspoken conflict between us. As we fished in silence, the weight of our disagreement hung in the air. It was clear that the tension was affecting both of us. I cast my line absently, my mind preoccupied with the argument. Jack's sigh broke the silence. Look, Annie, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to snap at you. I guess I'm just frustrated because I care so much about this. I want us to be successful together, and I'm worried that my impatience is getting in the way. I glanced at him, seeing the regret in his eyes. I'm sorry, too. I didn't mean to make things harder. I just want to learn and be a part of this. It's important to me, too. He reached out and touched my arm gently. I know it is, and I appreciate how hard you're trying. Let's just talk things through, okay? I don't want us to let this get between us. I nodded, feeling a sense of relief. I agree. Let's figure this out together. As the evening wore on, we discussed our feelings and concerns openly. It was the first time we had faced a significant disagreement, and it was clear that communication was key to resolving our issues. We talked about our expectations, how we could support each other better, and how to avoid similar conflicts in the future. By the time we packed up and headed back to camp, the air between us was clear again. We had worked through our first conflict and came out stronger on the other side. The trust and understanding we had built in our relationship were reaffirmed. As we sat by the fire that night, the crackling flames providing a comforting backdrop, Jack took my hand in his. I'm glad we talked things through. I know we'll have more challenges, but I'm confident we can handle them together. I smiled, feeling the warmth of his words and the strength of our bond. Me too, Jack. We've got this. And with that, we settled into a peaceful silence, the earlier tension replaced by a renewed sense of connection and commitment. The path ahead might have its obstacles, but I knew we were ready to face them together. The days after our heartfelt conversation felt like a fresh start. Jack and I had openly expressed our feelings, and it was clear that we both wanted to take our relationship to the next level. We were officially a couple now, and everything seemed to fall into place with a new sense of clarity and excitement. Our time together was filled with more than just fishing. We began to explore our shared interests and dreams, discussing everything from future fishing trips to the possibility of living closer together. Each conversation felt like we were building a stronger foundation for what lay ahead. One sunny afternoon, we sat by the lake, our fishing lines cast into the calm waters. The gentle hum of the boat engine provided a soothing backdrop as we talked about our plans. So, Annie, Jack said, turning to me with a smile, now that we're officially together, I've been thinking about what comes next. What do you see in our future? I looked at him, feeling a sense of anticipation. Well, I've been thinking about that too. I'd love to continue going on fishing trips with you, but I've also been considering moving closer. It would be great to be nearer to you and share more of these moments. Jack's eyes lit up with a mix of surprise and joy. You mean it? I'd love for you to be closer. I think it could be amazing for us. I nodded, feeling my heart swell with excitement. I've enjoyed the time we've spent together, and I feel like being closer would give us even more opportunities to build our life together. Plus, I'm starting to feel more at home in this area. Jack reached out and took my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. That's wonderful to hear. I've been thinking about the same thing. It would be great to have you nearby, and we could plan more fishing adventures and other activities. As we continued to discuss our future, we began to outline some concrete plans. We talked about potential locations for me to move to, which would be close enough for us to spend more time together while still giving me the space to adjust to the new area. We also discussed possible fishing trips we wanted to take, dreaming of new places to explore and adventures to share. The idea of moving closer seemed less daunting with Jack's support. We made tentative plans to visit some properties and explore options, excited about the prospect of creating a new home together. It felt like we were embarking on a new chapter of our lives, one filled with promise and shared dreams. The conversations about our future were filled with hope and enthusiasm. Every plan we made and every idea we shared strengthened the bond between us. It was clear that we were not just building a relationship, but a future together. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the lake, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Our relationship had moved beyond the early stages of dating. It was now grounded in mutual commitment and shared aspirations. I was looking forward to the journey ahead, knowing that with Jack by my side, it would be an adventure worth taking. We packed up our gear and headed back to shore, our hearts full of excitement and our minds buzzing with plans for the future. The path before us was still unfolding, but with each step we took, I felt more certain that we were heading in the right direction, together. Life has a way of throwing obstacles in our path, no matter how well we plan. Jack and I were no exception. As we began to solidify our plans for the future, we found ourselves facing a series of challenges that tested our resolve and commitment. It all started with work. Jack's schedule became increasingly demanding, with long hours at the marina and extra projects that kept him away from home. On top of that, I had my commitments and responsibilities that made it difficult to find time for everything we had planned. During one particularly hectic week, Jack and I barely had a chance to talk. We were both stretched thin, juggling our jobs and trying to stay on top of everything. It felt like we were drifting apart, our once constant communication becoming sporadic and strained. One evening after a particularly grueling day, I sat down to call Jack. His voice, though tired, still carried a note of warmth. "Hey, Annie. I'm sorry I haven't been around much. Things have been crazy lately." I sighed, feeling the weight of the week's frustrations. "I know. It's been tough for both of us. I miss the time we used to spend together. It feels like we're barely managing to stay afloat." There was a pause on the other end, and then Jack spoke with a reassuring tone. "I miss you too. I know things are hectic right now, but we'll get through this. We've faced challenges before, and we always come out stronger." His words were a balm to my worries. "You're right. We've tackled tough situations before. Maybe we just need to find a way to manage things better and make more time for each other." The conversation brought a sense of relief and clarity. We agreed to reassess our schedules and prioritize our time together, even if it meant making some sacrifices. We both recognized that maintaining our connection was crucial, even amidst the chaos. The following weeks were a test of our patience and adaptability. We worked together to navigate our conflicting schedules, often meeting for quick dinners or brief catch-ups between work commitments. It wasn't always easy, but we were determined to make it work. One Saturday, after a particularly long week, we took a break from our usual routine and headed to the lake for a day of fishing. The peacefulness of the water and the simplicity of the activity provided a much-needed respite from our busy lives. As we sat side by side on the boat, casting our lines and enjoying each other's company, I felt a renewed sense of connection. The obstacles we faced were significant, but they also reminded us of the strength of our partnership. Jack looked at me with a smile and said, "I'm glad we took this day for ourselves. It's moments like these that remind me why we're doing all this. We're building something great, and it's worth the effort." I squeezed his hand and nodded. "I feel the same way. We're in this together, and we'll overcome whatever comes our way. As long as we have each other, we can handle anything." As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, we felt a sense of accomplishment. Despite the hurdles, we managed to stay connected and supportive. Our relationship was tested, but it was also strengthened by the challenges we faced. We packed up and headed home, knowing that while there would be more obstacles ahead, we had proven our ability to navigate them together. The journey might not always be smooth, but with each other's support, we were ready to face whatever the future held. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a gentle glow over the horizon as Jack and I stood on the porch of our new home. It felt like the perfect start to a new chapter in our lives. After months of planning, working through obstacles, and growing closer, we finally leaped to create a home together. The house, though modest, felt like the embodiment of our shared dreams and aspirations. We had chosen it together, carefully considering each detail to make sure it reflected both our personalities and tastes. It was nestled by the lake, with the same serene view that had brought us together in the first place. It seemed only fitting that our new life would begin here. As we stood side by side, taking in the view, Jack turned to me with a smile. "It's hard to believe we're here. It feels like just yesterday we were discussing our plans, and now we're living them." I nodded, feeling a sense of contentment and excitement. "I know. It's been quite a journey, but it's all been worth it. I'm so grateful for everything we've built together. We had spent the past few weeks preparing the house, moving in, and organizing our new space. It was a labor of love, and every box we unpacked and every corner we decorated felt like a step towards solidifying our life together. The process had brought us even closer, reinforcing our commitment to one another. One evening, after a long day of unpacking and arranging furniture, we decided to take a break and enjoy a quiet dinner by the lake. The calm water reflected the soft hues of the setting sun, creating a picturesque backdrop for our meal. As we sat on the dock, eating a simple but delicious meal we had prepared together, I looked over at Jack. It's amazing how much has changed in such a short time. I never imagined I'd be here, starting this new chapter with you. Jack reached across the table and took my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. Neither did I, but I wouldn't change a thing. Every challenge we faced, and every decision we made, has brought us to this moment. I'm excited for what's to come. We spent the evening reminiscing about our journey, reflecting on the highs and lows, and sharing our hopes for the future. Our conversations were filled with optimism and love, each word strengthening the bond we had created. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, we sat in comfortable silence, simply enjoying the tranquility of our new surroundings. The lake, once a place where we had shared our dreams and faced our challenges, now felt like a symbol of our enduring commitment. The following morning, we woke up early and took a walk around our property, discussing the plans for our future together. We talked about the fishing trips we wanted to take, the gardens we hoped to cultivate, and the memories we wished to create in our new home. It was clear that our relationship had grown stronger through the trials we faced. The challenges had only deepened our connection, and we were more determined than ever to build a life filled with love, harmony, and shared experiences. As we settled into our new home and began our life together, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Our journey had brought us to this beautiful place, and I was eager to embrace the future with Jack by my side. Together, we were ready to face whatever came our way, confident in the strength of our bond and the promise of the life we were building. With each passing day, our love and commitment to one another grew stronger. We were not just creating a home, we were crafting a life filled with happiness, adventure, and the joy of being together. And as we looked forward to the future, we knew that the best was yet to come.